It's 9 o'clock. I can see that still, like, people are still joining, but yeah, we will let them come in. Warm welcome, everyone, to this Learnifier webinar. My name is Ulrika Peyron. I am a marketing manager here at Learnifier, and I'm really excited to see that so many of you have chosen to be with us this morning. Today, let me see if I can switch slides. Today, Anna Gullstrand will, Anna Gullstrand, Chief People and Culture Officer at Mentimeter, will share her view on long-term learning strategy work that empowers a learning culture. Anna will walk you through the building blocks of the strategy and share mistakes, learnings, and best practice from the Mentimeter growth journey. This will be an interactive session, and you will be able to ask questions along the way. And we can also address them at the end of the session. And you will get the slides from the presentation afterwards. I know that is a question that everybody asks otherwise. We have quite a few new names among the 740 plus signups that I said before. So before we begin, I want to give you a short introduction to Learnifier. We are the leading learning platform in the Nordics, and we're based in Sweden. But customers around the world use us to create learning experiences, training programs, and entire academies, primarily to onboard and develop the skills of their employees. We believe in making training easy, engaging, and efficient to achieve business outcome. And let me see if this works. So we work with many of Sweden's strongest brands. Maybe some of you recognize your own company here on this slide. But now over to today's speaker. Let me introduce Anna Gullstrand.
Thank you.
Anna, hold on, Anna. I just want to say something about you as well before you jump in. Is that okay?
Yes.
Anna is truly passionate about leadership and learning. And as you know, she's the Chief People and Culture Officer at Mentimeter, which is another SaaS company. So we were in the same business. But she's also the author of the book Facilitate, that won the HR Book of the Year in Sweden in 2020. The team at Mentimeter, the People and Culture team, has won a Human Growth Award. And Anna herself was awarded the SaaS Leader of the Year in Sweden in 2022 by Breakit. So she's a true superstar within our field, if you ask me. So Anna, now the stage is yours, and we're really excited to engage in your session.
Thank you. I'm super excited as well. Of course, this is I just love to talk about learning. So yeah, but before we start, I'm maybe we'll get fired if I'm not using my own learning tool when doing learning experiences. So I actually want you all to join this Menti. And why I want you to join is also because if you do that, we will collect the collective intelligence of this learning session, because there will also be input from you within the Mentimeter. And then when I share the presentation with you, you will also get all the comments from the participants. So let's just start here, so I understand a bit more who's in the room and why you're here. So basically, you either take this QR code and go by the QR code, or you go to menti.com and enter this code, and then you are coming into this presentation. Okay, so let's have a look. A lot of people are here for inspiration, to hear something new, to get toolbox, to get a structure for a learning strategy, to get new insights, lots of inspiration. Okay, I can actually maybe put space here. Let's see. So let's see if we can see some clusters why you are here. Okay, insights, inspiration, that's a lot. Something new, toolbox, only one. Concrete tools, I will provide that, structure, learning and development strategy to get buy-in from people. And some of you are also here to look at the return on investment of a learning strategy. Perfect, thank you. So you already heard about me. Maybe one thing that I want to add is that I also is a neuro leadership nerd, meaning that I really feel that we within people and cultural learning can benefit of learning a lot about our brain and human needs and group psychology. And with that, we can base a lot of our strategies, which we do at Mentimeter. Okay, so what will I cover today? So I will start with sharing our mistakes or like insights from the 3 years I've been working at Mentimeter and also the current state. So what are we doing? After that, I will go into the why, the what, and the how of learning and development strategy. We have a Q&A in Mentimeter. So if you look at your phone, you can open the Q&A at any time and write a question. And the reason that's good, instead of using the chat, is then you can also upvote other people's questions. So in the end, we can actually cover the questions that has the most votes. So basically talking about stuff that is important for most people in the room. This is a learning session, so let's learn from each other. Everyone who's listening are also experts within learning and development. So let's use that. And yes, of course, you will get the presentation afterwards. Okay, let's start then. I'm a bit curious, what is the status of your learning and development strategy within your business? Is it like acing it? We are in execution mode, we are measuring, we're seeing impact. Is it more like rolling out? We did a strategy, now we are rolling it out. Is it more just started, like, yes, it's clear, but we haven't really started with the implementation yet? Or is it in will do, we're planning for the future? Or low prio because this is not on our agenda at the moment? Okay, so let's see. So it seems like a lot of people are planning. So I guess good that you're here then. And then we have actually a lot of you that are in different phases. So I hope that I will cover something that's interesting, that, no matter where you are in the process. So what are the mistakes that I made in my role at Mentimeter? So the first one is basically why you should do a learning strategy. So we have a lot of learning initiatives at Mentimeter, but we never actually sat down in the management team or in the people and culture team and clearly connected to our business needs and business strategy and impact. I do think we're doing a lot of strategic things. We have a direction because we are competent people, but for sure it would have helped if we had started with that instead. One other mistake that we made is that we have put a lot of responsibility on the employee. So we have a yearly budget. So it's 20,000 Swedish crowns, like around 2,000 euro, that each employee can spend on training, basically. But what happens is that our employees are not using this. Even when they actually have conversations with their manager, still it's like this threshold to use the budget. Some are, of course. We also see a challenge that when people are using it, it's a bit more maybe only passion driven and not always connected to the business goals or what would be maybe most crucial that they are learning. So we have like this disconnection due to this. One, I would say maybe the biggest mistake is that I was not starting sales-specific training and onboarding in time. So we brought in sales enablement and one person working 100% with sales training when we were about 100 people in our sales organization. And the first thing we asked her, Shannon is her name, was like, okay, are we like are we early on this or are we late? Like, what's your opinion? And I think we thought that we were early, but she was like, you're so late. You should have done this like when you were 30. So yeah, that was, and of course, why? Because like in sales, training and actually sales performance is has a very high correlation. So it's basically stupid to not do this. And then the last thing is that we have not had any good system of supporting our department heads with their own learning strategy within their own departments. So this is where we are. So even with that said, there's a lot of good things going on, I would say, at Mentimeter. So we now have a clear learning and development strategy in sales, which is driven by sales and enablement. I would say that we have a 5-star onboarding process. We have been working with our onboarding very deliberate since the start of the birth of Mentimeter. We have a culture of always iterating and improving and learning by doing, which is driven by our core values. We have quite a lot of people who are actually doing role-specific skills and knowledge trainings, but it's a lot like it happened bottom up. So someone find a great cohort training or a great subscription service with great content, and then someone started to use it and then just grew within the organization, within the team. As I said, employees are not using their training budget fully. We have our own cohort-based leadership program that we are designing ourselves. We have manager training, we have high-performing teams trainings, and then, of course, or not of course, but we have around-the-year trainings in mental health and security, inclusion, and the things that we believe are important for all employees to know. It's both compliance reasons, but also just like operational and performing and being resilient, basically. So that's where we are. But this was not created because we had a clear learning and development strategy. This was created because we are passionate about learning and we do a lot of great stuff. But now we are looking into creating clarity and a more clear framework. So what is the why of a learning and development strategy? So I would like to start with you. So what do you see as the main business impact of having a clear learning and development strategy? Let's use the intelligence of the room and answer here in Mentimeter. So we have retention, employee engagement, not falling behind competitors, stay relevant, learning culture, performance, accelerate performance, progress, future readiness. Okay, lots of stuff coming in here. Okay, let's see if we group it, what we have. So a lot of comments on employee engagement, retention, competitor advantage, business performance, of course, the leadership, creating a learning culture, the sales, future readiness, meeting customer needs. Thank you for that one. And workflow training. Thank you. So as we see it, I would say that it's pretty much what you as a group was looking at. So we see that it drives business success. So basically it helps us to get on best practice level within our business operations, whether it's like, how am I a great customer success person, or how do we work with our go-to-market strategies, or how do we create, how do we work in our growth team? There's like education on all that and best practice education. And what I think is super cool nowadays is that those trainings out there are based on like here and now tactics. So they bring in the best industry experts in their trainings as teachers, and then we really get like the now and not like a few-year-old knowledge. Of course, sales, direct and measurable return on investment for some roles. So in sales, we have a training program for our 4 different roles. So SDRs, account executives, relationship managers, and customer success managers. Retention, yes. So as we all know, growing people is cheaper than recruiting new people. So instead of putting a lot of efforts into recruitment, which is costly, let's build people from the inside and help them to grow into new positions. And then, of course, they also stay longer. Intrinsic motivation and creating an engaging culture. So as probably some of you know, mastery learning is one of the 3 drivers for intrinsic motivation. So it's a fundamental human need to learn new things and to master something, and it's very intrinsically motivating to do that. And then, as some of you also wrote, being future-proof, staying ahead of the curve and unlock innovation. So if we can really make sure that we are using the latest, whatever it is, strategies or ways of doing things, we can stay ahead of our competitors. When I was doing some research for our own learning and development strategy project, I found a very good framework by, or an article by McKinsey and this framework. And as we see, it's basically the same things that we have been talking about, why you should invest in learning and talent development. Okay, so the what then? So I think the $1 million question that you need to answer is basically this question: what would make us successful? Like, what would, if we have these business goals, business strategy, or business objectives, what will make us reach that? So what knowledge, skills, mindset and beliefs, values and behavior and habits would make us successful? And then to break it down on the whole company, like what's actually something that everyone needs to know or apply, what is department specific, what is role specific, and also separate between individual contributors and leaders. And we put a lot of emphasis on our leaders because first of all, there's a lot of research supporting that if you have a great manager or a great leader, that is unlocking a lot of engagement, performance, retention, and so on. And also, so we just know that if we double down on the leaders part, then that will also give a ripple effect on the whole organization. I found this great image. So this, if I would have done a learning and development strategy earlier, this is how I would have done it. I think this is a great way of looking at it. So basically to start with the business strategy, as we talked about, and then make sure that you get your department heads involved in the conversation. Then to assess the capability gaps. So basically, like, where are we now? What kind of skills and knowledge and competences and beliefs and values and mindset and behaviors do we want to have that will accelerate our business success? And then try to estimate the value of that. And then when you have the gap clear, then you can start to design the learning journeys and the learning experience. And of course, to execute them, measure the impact on the business and get into the feedback loops and improving and all that. Make sure that it's an integrated part of your operations. Like, how can you integrate learning within your operations instead of putting it like on top? And then this framework suggests that you should think about the 70-20-10 rule within learning and development, which is basically that 70% is made within people's work. So you learn at work. 20% is basically skills training, and 10%, now I forgot what's the, okay, I will come back with that. What's the latest 10%? But there is something more there. Maybe someone knows that can add it to Menti. So as we are breaking this down internally, is that we have four areas. So we have the role specific skills and knowledge. We have the people skills and knowledge. When we talk about people skills, we mean like stuff like self-leadership, collaboration, communication, emotional intelligence, like things that everyone needs to know so we can create a better organization and a better culture together. So this is very related to our core values. And then we have a specific leadership and management training. And then we also have a training that is more connected to compliance and operations. So for the role-specific skills and knowledge training, what we do now is that we work with content partners. So basically, we have, for example, something called Pavilion that we use in sales and marketing, and Reforge that we use for product and marketing, that has like the best practices and like super here and now what is cooking within the specific areas. So we have this for some teams and departments, but not for all. And that is what we want to, that is the next step for us right now. A short deep dive in sales, because I think maybe some of you think that's interesting. So in sales, we are much more ahead compared to the other departments. So the purpose is to create a high-performing sales organization and relate our trainings a lot to business impact and actually like revenue, ARR, NRR, and so on. And what we do is that we use Pavilion, but we also are creating Menti-specific trainings. For example, we are like recording our CSO when he's talking about how to work with value-based selling, or so we can basically scale the training package. And this is also extra important because we're a global organization. So we have an office in Stockholm, Toronto, and we're opening up an office in Sydney. What I also like with all of the content services that are available now is that usually it's by subscription, by employee. Usually it is also, you can go either on live trainings or self-paced, or you can go on, cohort training. So you join a cohort with other people that has working in other SaaS companies, for example, and you get a lot of input from them. And also that you can integrate it to Salesforce. So basically we can see the relationship between training activity and sales results. And we also have an LMS, so to track progress for individuals. And that's also where we put the Menti-specific trainings that we are creating. And this is driven by sales enablement, and they have 2 full-time employees working with only the sales part of it. So here's just a few slides from sales enablement. So what they are responsible for, so trainings and career development and sales methodologies is an onboarding. I mean, all that is related to training. They have a very clear framework, how they're measuring their success, how they work with the LMS. And we also have a sales boot camp when people start to ramp them up and make sure that they can deliver in their role, and to basically to set them up for success. Okay, so the people skills part. So I actually had asked on LinkedIn what people call this. So the term I hate is soft skills, which is commonly used. I think it gives the wrong impression, because for me, these kind of skills are really hard skills. They are very related to performance. So what is this? So it's collaboration, communication, self-leadership, where we work a lot with the SCARF model from the Self-Leadership Institute, and emotional intelligence. And also it's trainings in our core values and ways of working, time management, and those kind of things. How like basically you manage yourself and you manage your time. And here we actually do everything in-house. And why we can do that is because when I started to build the people and culture team, I focused on getting people on board that were facilitators, learning experience experts, instead of going more to the like HR admin law compliance route. So for the first 3 years, when I've been here at Menti, we actually have done this kind of things in-house, facilitations, trainings, and so on. And actually the more HR traditional things, we have actually had the consultants for. So a bit opposite of how many other companies are doing it when they are outsourcing their leadership trainings, for example. Here we do a lot of live social learning, live but hybrid, to strengthen togetherness and make people connect. And we use Mentimeter a lot to create like inclusive and engaging training experiences where people actually like learn enhance memory. So it's just not like content overload. And as we see it, the next step for us is to ensure the consistency and also work more cohort based. So looking at different cohorts and when they were starting at Mentimeter and see like based on that when they need like to fill to fill up basically, because we all have all this in our onboarding, but then after a time we need to like fill the cup again. I'm just looking at the time, so we are great on time. When it comes to leadership and management training, as I said, it's been highly prioritized. So we have an in-house leadership program, which is a combination of a lot of great programs that we in the people and culture team have been to ourselves. So I would say it's a mix of, it's a lot of Franklin Covey stuff, if someone knows about that. We have how-to trainings in relation to coaching, development talks, salary talks, like how to do tough conversations, that type of things. We have a very structured program around high-performing teams. So our people partners support our team leads to understand in what stage, performance stage their team is in, and what the team needs from them as a leader in that specific stage. And for that, we use a model called integrated model of group development. And there's a survey connected to it that's called GDQ. And with that survey, you actually measure which stage the team is in and what they need. And what's interesting with this model is that basically it says what we all know that works with leadership, that leadership is situational. So a team needs very different communication, actions, and behavior from their leader, depending on which stage they're in. And I would say that is super hard as a leader to understand where the team is, but then also actually change their leadership approach and way of doing leadership depending on what the team needs. And that is what we're supporting them with. And then we have a leadership summit where we actually collect all our strategic leaders physically 4 times a year to build relationships, connections, and talk about what's important right now. So we design that depending on what we feel that the leaders need at this moment. So for example, we had a meeting last week, or this week actually, where we talked about how it is to work in a fast-paced environment, our business goals, and then we talked about what we believe as leaders that we need to do differently to achieve our business goals. And there was a lot of interesting conversations about how our actually existing culture is hindering us a bit, and how we can overcome that together. So how do we do this? We have our people growth partners that are part of each department's leadership team. And I think this is important. So basically they are like VP peoples of their department together with the department head. We do a lot of live conversations and social learning because we believe that we need to change beliefs and mindset. And to do that, we need to like go deeper. And it's sometimes hard to go deep when you're only doing things self-paced or cohort or self-paced or remote. And we use Mentimeter, Google Slides, and actually still a lot of printouts. I feel a bit old-fashioned, but I think it's very impactful when you get, for example, a self-reflection template. You get a great pen, and then you sit in silence and reflect. And then you have like an active listening exercise afterwards where you share your insights. And the next step within leadership and management training is to actually do more. We feel that we need to do more and we are also considering now to work with external partners to increase the pace, because we are falling short like on resources to educate all our leaders. And then also we want to integrate with an LMS for self-paced learning and catching up sessions. But the focus will still be live and social learning. Okay, let's have a question on onboarding just to see where this group is at. So how long is your onboarding when a new employee starts? How long are they like in special training or special, I don't know, before they get into business as usual? Thanks. This makes me super happy because I think there was a time when people thought that like, okay, come into work, here's your computer, read this manual one day, and then you just think that they are they're up to speed. Okay, super interesting. So most of you have 2 to 4 weeks, and some of you look at onboarding as the whole probation period, and a few of you have also 1 to 2 days or 1 week. So as we see it, and I hope you also do, that onboarding is learning. I mean, if there's something you need to have in your learning and development strategy is a chapter on onboarding. So I think why? Because we need to make hay while the sun shines, or what do you say? Järnet är varmt, something in Swedish. Yeah. Smida medan järnet är varmt. So when people enter a company, they are super excited. They are super committed. They have a lot of intrinsic motivation. They also want to show off. They want to learn new things. So I think there is a space here that we really need to make something out of. And we try to do this as an immersive learning experience and make sure that everyone gets on board on strategy and business models, go-to-markets, our core values, ways of working, internal communication. And also we see that we are doing this cohort-based. So we have 2 starting dates per month. And then we also we also see that they are building very strong connections within their starting or onboarding team, that it actually benefits them later on, and also creates a lot of like cross department collaboration. So our onboarding is delivered by leaders and employees, which is great because it's also learning for them, and it feels very purposeful to talk about how we do things. And we do it 4 weeks intense, but we actually look at the whole probation period as an onboarding period to set up people for success and have check-ins and give feedback and so on. So that's how we do it. And then the last thing I would like to say about the what is to not forget the potential when you give people interim positions or make them operate outside of comfort zone, like succession, people getting project and tasks that makes them stretch themselves, because we have seen that once we do this, then we like 10x the learning for a person. So like to build that into your strategy. Okay, a few notes on how before I will open up for questions. So first of all, I think you need to decide what mix you believe in as a company and how like the percentage between this stuff, asynchronous, micro learning, live sessions, social learning, cohort-based, company-specific or general, hybrid, live, remote, and so on. I think we all need to be super curious on EdTech because there are so many great systems that can make it more like engaging, scalable, automate things and so on. So like learning platforms, for example, as Learnifier, and then different LMS systems, live training accelerators as Mentimeter, and also these different type of subscription-based learning providers. And there's also a lot now on AI-powered content creating that we should all look at. Also, as I said, 70% in work learning. So I do think it's important that we help people to understand what they are learning in their work with like evaluations, retrospectives, asking for feedback, reading, podcasts, and those kind of things. And we also have quarterly business review that has a lot of like learning and reflection in it. And then, of course, to never forget these two, because usually you focus too much on the skills and knowledge in your trainings, but you never get deeper into changing beliefs, values, and actually getting it into actions. So always remember that in your program. And then at Mentimeter, we do a lot of when we do it ourselves, holistic learning experiences. And with that, I mean, we design for body, soul, brain, and heart, a lot about social connections, using the physical space. It's a mix of theory, self-reflection, conversation, learning by doing. We play a lot, we use different stuff, and we put a lot on emphasis on unlocking the intelligence of the room. Make it safe, inclusive, engaging, impactful, and fun. As easy as that. So, summary. So I've been talking about some mistakes, the why, the what, the how. And before we go into Q&A, I know that Ulrika really want to know what is, no, sorry, this one. No, not that one. What topic do you suggest for the next Learnifying webinar? So let's just make sure we get this in before we go into the Q&A.
Exactly. We're curious to see what you want to hear or read, what you want to listen to for the next Learnify webinar, as this is not going to be a one-off. Cool. Skills management, VR.
Mm-hmm.
Motivation, onboarding specific programs.
A lot of AI here also.
Yes, and a lot of suggestions in general, I say. Provide better feedback.
Leadership, onboarding. Nice.
And in-person social learning event.
Now you can have 100 webinars.
Exactly. You don't have to think about that anymore. Perfect. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, so please go into the Q&A. We already have 9 questions. Look at the questions that are already asked and see if you want to upvote them. So go into Menti. So once again, you can go to menti.com, enter this code, or you just use the...
We have received a few questions in the chat on Zoom as well now. And I just want to encourage you who wrote those questions maybe to add them to Menti instead, because then others can vote for them. So for example, Cecilia asked something about core teams. If she's still in the session, maybe she can just add them to Menti.
Perfect. So I have 10 questions now in Mentimeter, and you're up voting now as we speak. And please take a few seconds to enter if you have more questions. So how to handle people who do not want to join the training? How many people do you have in your people and culture team? Okay, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Let's start with the first one. So how do you identify skills gaps? So I think that this is probably the part in the learning strategy where you work with your department heads that will take like the longest time, or you need to put a lot of effort in. So I would start with getting like the right people in the room, talking about what we believe about the future and what we believe, what kind of skills people need to deliver in that future. And then I mean, you can do this quite simple in an Excel, like, okay, here are the skills, top skills for each role, and then basically use the manager's assessment of both people's assessment of themselves and managers' assessments of people to get like, okay, 1 to 10, where do we think we are within this one? And where do we want to be? So, I mean, if you're a smaller organization, I would start very easy with that kind of framework, but there are also a lot of SaaS tools for this specific task, basically, to understand skills and identify skills gaps. So there's an app for that. There's a SaaS for that. But this is something we're looking into. If we have looked into something called progression, but we're also looking into other type of tools for this one. How to handle people who do not want to join the training. Okay. Yes, this one is hard. I think like, first of all, there needs to be like very clear commitment and buy-in from the management team. So, I mean, this is a lot about role modeling. If people see that the top leaders are in the trainings, they also feel that this is something that is successful behavior, basically. So I do think it's super important to get the buy-in from the management team. And then I also think that we get what we deserve in a way. So like we need to create great learning experiences that has all these aspects that I talked about, the skills part, the beliefs and mindset part, and the action and behavior part. Because if we are not, people will join a training and then it was like boring or not engaging, and then they will not join again. So in a bit, it's up to us to also create great learning experiences. We also have a follow-up systems for the compliance parts. So security training, for example, we are very on, like we have one training, we have a follow-up training, we have in our HR system who went to the training or not, and then we're sending reminders. So I mean, it takes some effort to get some people along, for sure. How many people do you have in your people and culture team? So we are 24 people. We are 350 employees, and we are 24 people in our people and culture team. And it's quite evenly distributed on talent acquisition. There are 6 people growth and HR, like more HR business partners, and they are also 6. And then employee experience, which is also office experience, workplace experience. We also have like free lunch every day and those kind of things. And we also have our relocation where we go to another city 1 month each year, which takes a lot of planning. So we have that also. And it's in our office in Toronto. We also have, so this is also like both from Sweden and Toronto, and this 24 people. Are your leadership programs split into new leaders, experience, etc.? So this is actually a topic we're discussing right now. Up to this point, we have not split it that much. And the reason behind it is that we see that people have different purposes when they're in the training. So by mixing up, we actually, so the more senior leaders, they also have a mission to share their experience, basically. So if we design our programs very, what do you say? We use the input from the group a lot, like reflections, conversations, and basically the competence that the group has. So which makes basically the group that is in the training decides what level the conversations are on, which is based on who is in. So we have designed it in a way so it actually adapts with the group. I do see that we need to do some.
Yeah, we have 2 more minutes, Anna.
Yeah, perfect.
And I saw that we have 23 questions. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. We will not have time to answer everyone. Okay, so do you have an example of how a people skills training could look like? Topics, for instance. Yeah, so for example, we do a training on the SCARF model. And the SCARF model is about what our brain needs to use its full capacity, our need for status, autonomy, certainty, relatedness, and fairness. So what we do basically, we do it in Mentimeter. So it's like an interactive, engaging experience where people are engaging with the content, getting some theory, doing some breakout rooms, and then they understand the theory better. And we talk a lot about like, what relation do you see with this model and our core values? How can you apply this in real work situations? And then usually we end with creating an action list for yourself. We also work a lot with social accountability, meaning that we end each training with people pairing up with someone else and actually booking a meeting when they're going to check in on each other. So we use that kind of methods.
I think it's competency analysis, because that was written in the chat before.
Yeah, exactly. And systems and examples of profiles. So this is, we do it a bit different. So we have each craft has been responsible for their own competency part. So for example, in design, we have the design skills. Basically, you need to be a great designer, and we use I think we use progression, for example, for that one. But this is quite unevenly distributed in the organization, so we are not there yet, I would say. Okay, shall we take a last question?
Yeah, last question.
Yeah, do you also have HR business partners in the team with people growth partners? Yeah, so no, I would say it's the same as HRBP. We just call it people growth partners. Maybe the competence is a bit different. They are more into, I would say, like coaching, facilitation, trainings, our HR or the HR business partners. So that is how we do it. I think we should end.
Yeah, let's stop there.
Let's stop there.
So, I mean, I also want to stay for hours and learn about this, but unfortunately, we only had 45 minutes this morning. Yeah.
So the last thing I just wanted to say is that please connect at LinkedIn. It's fun. I get a lot of inspiration of looking at what other people are doing. So please connect. We also have a thing if you want to join. So we are live sending our own company All Hands, which we call the Mental Listening Show. We have a whole production team behind our company All Hands. So it's a show, basically. So if you want to get some inspiration on how to do a company All Hands, please have a look at that one. And then, of course, if you're curious on how to use Mentimeter in learning and development, please reach out. And yeah, this was great. You will get the presentation with also all the input from all of you.
Exactly. We're going to send that out. And someone asked in the chat if you can share with colleagues. Of course. You will receive the presentation, and you will receive the link to the recording. And yeah, we will provide you with as much material as we possibly can after this. And thank you so much, Anna, for joining us today. I really, I mean, yeah, I learned so much. Definitely going to join on the 13th. I just want to say that if you're curious for the Swedish Crown in here today, if you're curious to learn more about Learnifier, we have a live demo session on the 7th of September. And you will get a link to sign up for that as well, if you like. Thank you so much for today. And as we usually say here at Learnifier, may the learning be with you. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.